Jessica is joining us today from beautiful Australia, and she's ready to moonshot your thinking so you can achieve any goal you desire. Jessica is a happy Monday kind of girl. I'm sure she's going to tell you all about it. She's a mindset coach and entrepreneur who is dedicated to shift your thinking to help you reach your goals. At 17 years old, Jessica found herself in a very difficult situation. She was living out of home with no education, no home, and no chance to succeed in life. Flash forward to just 24 years old herself, she was graduating university with a double major and 2 successful startups under her belt. Today, Jessica is on her mission to inspire, reach, and impact over 10 million people globally to moonshot their thinking and help them reach their full potential. So Jessica, I'm really happy to have you with us today. The stage is yours. Enjoy, everyone. Feel free to ask questions and have a lot of fun. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Annette, for organizing this and helping me to get my mission out there to more people. So thank you so much for joining me. I was about to say tonight, because in Sydney, Australia, it's 8 o'clock at night. But for you guys, I believe it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So good morning. Happy Thursday as well. So what I'm here today is to present to you Moonshot You. Now, what I uncovered after a decade of research and trial and error is how you need to shift your thinking in order to reach any goal in life. My why, I think this is a very important thing for me to start with, just that way you guys can really get an understanding of who I am and what I'm here to do. My why is to actually enable people with the tools and resources they need to own and reach their own definition of success, whatever that success may be. My vision is to create a world where people of all shapes and sizes, economic status, demographic, culture, and race have the resources and tools to allow them to reach their goals and positively change their life. Now, I want to do this to help absolutely everybody, because from my experience, I know what it feels like to have no one believe in you and to have no hope whatsoever. Now, I want to take you guys back to where it all began. So as Annette was describing in my introduction, I actually moved out of home at 17 years old. And when I was 17 years old, I actually moved to another state. I had no support, no financial support, nothing. And I actually didn't finish my high school education. So for us here in Australia, we actually need to finish our grade 12 and our HSC. So that's our higher education. And then it's fairly customary to go from HSC straight into university. So that didn't happen for me. And I was 17 years old and I was actually working 3 jobs to support myself. So I was living in a different state, completely away from my family, my parents. And one of those jobs, I was actually a cleaner. So one night when I was cleaning, one of the people inside of the building actually said to me, "I'm never going to make it." He actually treated me like shit. I said, "Sorry, do you mind if you move while I'm cleaning?" And he goes, "Go back to your own country." And he said a few other things like that. But it was in that moment where I actually decided, I made a decision that moment that I wanted to become successful. Now, at 17, I actually didn't know what success was. I didn't know what it looked like for me, but the next logical step was actually going back and finishing my high school education. So that's exactly what I did. So I saved up my money and went and actually paid and enrolled and finished my high school education. From there, the next logical step in order to make me successful was to then go to university. So I was in university and I was a bit of a late student. And while I was at uni, I noticed a few problems that were happening around me. So me, kind of with all my background and my experience of being quite hands-on, I started 2 companies to actually solve these problems. So I kept growing these companies while I was at university and while I was also working for other people. And what was quite fascinating is by halfway through my second year, a lot of my teachers, my peers, fellow students, and some of the other lecturers started to ask me, what do you do and how do you do it? And could you help me? So sure enough, not long after that, I actually developed a little cohort of people where I started to help them. And they would come to me with their business ideas or what they wanted to do after university. And I sat every single one of them down and I gave them my entire roadmap, my entire plan of what I did and how it could help them. So I would mentor them and sit down with them for a series of 3 months. Every week we would catch up. And what was quite amazing is that throughout this time, I started getting a little bit of awareness. So I was actually featured in the media all over Australia for being such a young, successful businesswoman. So that only added to my credibility and it allowed me to help more people because people could understand where did I come from, despite 5 years earlier having absolutely what looked like on the outside no hope whatsoever. So as I began to mentor people, when it came time for them to launch their businesses, something crazy happened. Not many people could actually pull the trigger. And I say that metaphorically. Not many people could actually press go and launch their businesses or their idea, despite the fact that we had de-risked it as much as we could, despite the fact that we had planned as many things as we could, and we had actually established a marketplace, a market size. We had done every type of testing we needed to do. When it came time to launching, 9 out of 10 of them couldn't do it. They couldn't actually press the button and do it. And it was quite interesting because I became fascinated from that point on, thinking, why couldn't they do it? What was stopping them? What did I not cover well enough as their teacher? Did I miss something? Because I had spent so long with them and we had made everything as foolproof as possible. And it made me think, like, I actually came back from situations that were more than impossible, but I still managed to make it work. I mean, I did everything I did with my businesses without an actual business understanding or without an actual business degree. I mean, I was still learning it. And it just made me think, like, why did some people reach their goals and why do others not? And so I became absolutely fascinated with it. It took up my entire thinking space, my every movement. I began asking my friends, my colleagues, everyone that I knew, how are you reaching this goal? Or how are you not reaching this goal? So simple example, a friend's mum wanted to lose weight. And after 2 days, she stopped. She stopped even trying with her healthy eating plan. And I began to ask her, why'd you stop? Why didn't you believe you could do it? What was going on inside your mind? And it really came down to people's beliefs and understanding about how they saw themselves. So I began to ask them, why do you believe you can't do this? And where did you learn where you weren't capable of doing something or where you were capable of doing something? And what truly stops you? And it became an absolutely crazy experience because I was reading every single book. I was researching every single person, and I was speaking to psychologists, professors, doctors, academics, people who had just studied this field of psychology and just the human behavior in terms of understanding a little bit more about what holds people back from reaching their goals. And I'm proud to say that after a decade of trial and error and researching with the best of the best, Moonshot U was born. Now, as I said before, I actually worked with psychologists, researchers and academics, industry-leading professionals, and authors. And then after I began to figure out what is the concept of Moonshot U, how can I help people create a tangible step within themselves to help them reach their goal, I then began trying it out on executives and CEOs. So from my business background, I actually was really well connected with a lot of them. So they gave me the time of day and they allowed me to test this on them. I also began testing it on disadvantaged teens and students. So coming from that background, I knew exactly how they were feeling and what they did and didn't believe about themselves. I also tested it out on high school students, on entrepreneurs and fellow business owners. And what this is, what Moonshot U is simply a 10-question quiz that helps you to identify how likely you are to reach your goals. Now, what happened was throughout my discovery, I realized that it actually comes down to two things when it comes to reaching your goals. It comes down to your mindset and it comes down to your self-belief. Now, this is the actual framework, which I'll take you through in a minute. But what I needed to do was I needed to find a way that I could help teach people about where they are versus where they want to be. What was that gap in between? What was that gap that either stops them from reaching their goals or enables them to keep going towards reaching their goals? And what could I do to help them shift from where they are to where they want to be? And what is, like I was saying, what are some of the tangible action steps these people need to be taking? Because if someone really wants to do something, why can they do it or why can't they do it? If we're looking at two different people. So what I realized is that it comes down to two things. It comes down to the beliefs that a person has about themselves. So essentially, your beliefs is pretty much how you see yourself. So do you see yourself positively? Like, do you have a positive self-belief? So do you believe in your actions, your mindset, your thoughts, do you feel confident within who you are? And secondly, what is your mindset? So we can have two different types of mindsets. We can either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Now, both of these things come into play. So when it comes to reaching your goals, the actual sweet spot is over here. So on the grid, we have the growth mindset and a positive self-belief. Now, what I did throughout the series of the 10 years where I was trying this is I was actually testing this on my other colleagues and my other students, and like I was saying, the executives and the CEOs. So one of my executive friends, for example, he was very successful in every area of his life, except when it came to his weight. He actually couldn't lose weight. So he was saying to me, why can't I reach this goal? Now, when I actually worked with him, I realized that he had a negative self-belief when it comes to his weight, but yet a growth mindset. So in order for that to happen, he was kind of being a dream builder. So what happened there is that he had this dream of, oh, I want to do this, but I don't believe I can, because he had a negative self-belief. He didn't believe positively that he could actually reach his goals. Whereas if we had someone who, when they wanted to reach their goals, if they had a growth mindset, which pretty much means that they are able to adapt and change, and they take on board feedback mixed with a positive self-belief, they're highly likely actually to reach their goals. Now, they've got this certain type of resilience within themselves that makes it easier for them to come back in case anything happens, in case they need to bounce back from anything, they can bounce back quicker. So that was the sweet spot that I discovered for people to reach their goals. Now, this was a question that I got asked the most, especially with working with Annette. She was asking me, what is the type of thinking you need to have when it comes to reaching your goals? Now, I can understand across all the different ages and all the different goals I've had in my life, the two things I've needed to have is a growth mindset. So with a growth mindset, you understand that effort is the path to mastery. So if you don't actually get something the first time, that's okay. That just means you need to keep trying. And this is where the idea of resilience comes in. So if you don't get something the first go, or you actually get knocked back, you need to be able to get back up. You need to understand that this is just part of the journey. So that's essentially part of a growth mindset when it comes to resilience. It's also about viewing failures as an opportunity to learn. And also when it comes to feedback, another really important aspect of a growth mindset is that when it comes to feedback, you actually welcome and embrace it. By accepting feedback, you're actually understanding what are some of the areas you might need to improve on. Because if you're improving on that, it's going to help you. Another important element is embracing challenges and seeing failure as simply a temporary setback. Now, these are the important elements of shifting your thinking when it comes to having a growth mindset. Now, if we move on to having a positive self-belief, that's the second element you need to have when it comes to reaching your goals. Now, in order to have a positive self-belief, this is kind of what it would entail. It would entail being able to trust yourself. So when it comes to making choices, you would be trusting your own judgment and not feeling guilty about your decision if someone else doesn't agree. Because what that says to yourself is that you have the internal self-confidence that you need in order to have a positive self-belief. Next up, it would be considering yourself worthy and equal to others, regardless of what you have or haven't achieved. Now, this is really important because a lot of us can compare ourselves to our neighbor if our neighbor is doing better in a certain area than us. That's not really the case when it comes to having a positive self-belief. So with having a positive self-belief, it enables you to feel confident in yourself no matter what. So really, no matter what you achieve versus what your neighbor achieves. And this is really important when it comes to true confidence. And I'll get to that in the next slide. Next up is also believing that you are valuable and that others will enjoy spending time with you, regardless of what you do or what you have achieved. This is really, really important. And finally, having a positive self-belief also means believing in your capacity to solve problems, adjust to failures, and ask for assistance. Now, a lot of this stuff can really come just by trying and just by understanding that having that growth mindset, if you don't get it the first time, that's okay. You can always try and do it again. Now, how to shift your thinking. This was something I found really, really important when it came to working with people, because what happens when we have a goal that we actually don't believe we can achieve? We're already starting on the back foot. We're already disabling ourselves and not giving ourselves the chance to actually go forth and try that goal. So no matter where you land on the quadrant and no matter where you are right now, the secret behind all goal achievement is actually believability. The first step is simply believing that you can achieve it. Like I'm saying, if we don't believe we're going to get there, we're not even going to be able to take the first step towards reaching that goal. Now, what would happen if I say, tomorrow, meet me at the bottom of this mountain. We're going to go give it a go. Now, we've done no training. We've had no preparation, nothing whatsoever. We're not going to believe we can do it. And it happens just like that. If a goal is so big and so scary, we're not even going to try. And that is the problem that a lot of goals have for us, is that sometimes they can be too big and they seem too impossible, especially if we have a fixed mindset instead of a growth mindset, and especially if we have a negative self-belief. If we don't believe, we're not willing to give it a go. So what I found after working with people is that they needed a tangible way to understand what is the next step to help me believe, firstly in myself, that I can actually reach this goal. The answer that I found was actually creating this concept that I call mini wins. Now, mini wins are fantastic because it's simply the ability to take a big, scary, overwhelming goal and turn it into a tangible, actionable piece that you need to do as your next logical step. Now, when it comes to achieving goals, we can't actually go and try to climb the mountain on day one. First of all, it's not believable, but second of all, we're not prepared for it. So what we need to do is build up our internal self-belief. We need to believe from our head right through to our toes that we can actually reach this goal. So instead, we need to start by believing this belief within ourselves. And you can only reach the larger goal if we've done all the smaller foundational work that we need. What I'm going to do now is I want to actually go through an example of a mini win. Now, what I'm going through here is how to break up a larger goal into smaller actionable pieces, but how to understand what type of thinking we have and how it can hold us back. So let me give you this example. The first step we need to do is to understand what is the goal we are trying to achieve. Now, if we take this example here is losing 10 kilos. So that's our goal. And we're actually going to put it down in our journal. And we're going to say, okay, my name is Sarah, for example, and my goal over the next 3 months is to lose 10 kilos. What happens when it comes time to actually creating a healthy eating plan or actually starting to think about achieving that goal? So that's where we come down to point number 2. So if we're understanding when we think about our goal that it doesn't seem believable that we can actually reach this goal, we need to sit down and understand, why do we think it's not believable that we could reach this goal? So point number 3 is think about, what do you need to believe in order to reach this goal? So if we're understanding that we think we can't achieve this goal because we don't believe we can stick to a healthy eating plan, what we need to actually be doing is believing that we can stick to that healthy eating plan, which makes the idea of reaching our goals so much easier. It makes it so much more believable. So when it comes to reaching goals, a lot of people say, just go out there and try and make it happen. But where we fall short is that we don't believe that we can make it happen. So what I'm trying to say here is that we need to understand, we need to get to the root cause of why we don't believe we can reach our goals. Figure out, okay, if we don't believe we can stick to a healthy eating plan, create a mini win around that. So it all starts with the first meal, for example. So we need to build up the believability that we can actually reach our goal just by starting with the first healthy meal, and then the next one, and then the next one. Because with the habits that we're creating, that actually forms our identity. So if over time and very small incremental steps, if we're understanding that this is where we start from, and if we're constantly achieving one mini win after the next one and after the next one, all of a sudden we're going to feel this confidence within ourselves because we've built up the belief that we can actually reach that goal, and we've proven it to ourselves. This is the most important part here to understand, is that we need to prove it to ourselves that we can reach this goal, that this goal is believable. And the only way to prove it to ourselves is to do it. So the final step here is begin by taking the small actionable steps that we need to do in order to make the larger goal more achievable. Now, when it comes to actually creating your mini wins, what you need to do is begin by asking yourself these 3 simple questions. Question 1, what is the big goal you're trying to achieve? Question 2, what is the first step you need to take in order to make reaching that goal actually achievable? And finally, what do you need to believe in order to reach this goal? These are the 3 fundamental questions that, if we were to go back to the previous page, would help us to understand more about the believability we need to have within ourselves. So for those of you watching, can you see this example here of a mini win? And can you see it relevant to something that you're trying to go for at the moment? So if we were to replace losing 10 kilos, we can put anything there. We can put achieving a higher grade. We can put, gosh, what else? What would be an example that's relevant to you? Do you guys want to put that in the chat? That would be really cool to actually see, like, if there's an example of a mini win that you want me to go through now with you. Let's have a look at the chat. All right. Don't know if it's loading.
Jessica, so we have one goal here. We have one goal here from Victor Nat. He says he wants to pass the IB. I don't know what IB stands for though, and the Matura, which is a graduation here in Austria, basically.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's work on that example, Victor. So if we're looking at passing the IB and the Matura, so let's say that's passing a really big test, what we would need to do is understand what the goal is. So we put the goal there. then the next thing is we need to understand, why doesn't it seem believable? So for example, this goal might not seem believable to you at the moment because you know you might not have effective study patterns, for example. So what we need to do is think about, what would you need to believe in order to reach this goal? So if you know, and you've proven to yourself before, that you don't have effective study patterns, what you need to do instead is start by figuring out, what effective study patterns do I need to create? And then begin by taking small mini wins towards achieving that. So it can be, for example, changing up a habit, such as devoting half an hour more per day, something like that. But the concept of sticking to that small goal every single day will achieve the mini wins you need to actually make the larger goal so much more believable. Now, what I wanted to highlight is the tools you need to have in order to shift your thinking. Now, what I did is I actually thought long and hard over the last 5 years, and some of the people I've actually helped. What has been the 5 things, the 5 qualities they needed to have in order to shift their thinking? Because changing a mindset is actually a process, and it takes a lot of time and constant and repetitive effort. But what I can always say is focus on one small step at a time. Now, the 5 qualities that each of these people have needed to have is, firstly, to have an open mind. So be sure to have a mind that's flexible and open to listening to new ideas. Secondly, be positive. So I'm an extremely positive person. I'll even say happy Monday on a Monday morning. And not a lot of people around me sometimes might like their jobs or what they're doing. But I find by being positive will actually help other people. Thirdly, they need to have the right resources. So be very careful about what you're listening to and what you're surrounding yourself with. Fourth, a can-do attitude makes the world of difference. That's what I was mentioning before about a growth mindset and the ability to get back up in case you fall down, because that happens. And finally, the right circle of influence. So be careful about who you're spending time with and making sure that they're positively influencing you in your life. Now, finally, at Moonshot U, what we're doing is we are constantly creating resources to help people shift their thinking and reach their goals. Now, what I was mentioning before is that we actually created the 10-question quiz called Moonshot U. And what we've done is we've actually placed that on our website and created a 6-page downloadable that will help give you an answer sheet. So depending on the way you answered the questions will determine where you actually land on the quadrant. And in the email response, you'll actually get back a series of activities you can do to help build up your believability, and a way to help you understand, okay, if you're in this quadrant, how can you shift from there and get to the actual Moonshot U quadrant and reach your goals? So we've been creating these resources across our Instagram, the website, Instagram TV, and it's been fantastic to see the response of people, because they're asking us questions all the time about, how can I be more confident? Or what do you think a better way is to handle certain situations when they're outside of my control, such as what's been happening this year with COVID. That's been a big problem for people when it comes to reaching their goals. So what we're doing is creating resources around helping people to manage what they control and what they focus on, which once again comes back to having an open mind and being positive. So these are really, really important resources when it comes to shifting your thinking. And finally, I just wanted to share with you, this is how you can connect with us. If you have any questions, me or my team are happy to help you. We create personalized videos for people depending on what they're going through, because we just really want to reach out and help people to reach their goals in any capacity whatsoever. So thank you so much, and I'm so happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for this wonderful session. I'm really happy you could have joined us today. Thank you for sharing the tools and the resources. Everybody, please follow Moonshot You so you can get into this topic way much more. I'm really happy because it's so close to what we as Moonshot Pirates are as well doing. So thank you for being with us today. We have first questions coming to the Q&A tool. It's from Caro, actually. She says, thank you so much, Jessica. Is there a huge difference between hassles, problems, beliefs, mindset between the teenagers and the executives in your experience? And if so, what are the most striking differences?
So the differences in mindset between, let's say, teenagers and executives is actually nothing. So no matter, and this is what I found out, and it was actually quite remarkable for me to find out, no matter how successful or established someone is, they're often still going to have the same problems as you. So like I mentioned in one of my examples, one of my clients is actually a partner at a top accounting firm here in Australia. And he is super successful in every single way, except when it comes to managing his weight. Now, we can take that as an example of a 55-year-old extremely successful man, right through to a 19-year-old girl that I know who is struggling with managing her weight. It seems so simple, but at the end of the day, everyone is the same, especially when it comes to our beliefs and our thinking. So with both of these two people that I worked with, they both understood that they didn't believe in trust in their decisions when it comes to eating healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only agree with that. Also, maybe a question from my side. Many people are actually suffering this so-called imposter syndrome and are battling with that. This imposter syndrome is actually basically a fraud of or a fear of being exposed as a fraud. And I have been listening to a podcast from Seth Godin where he said that we actually are all imposters. That means if we are doing something crazy, if we are doing things that are out of our comfort zone, we are always going to be imposters. What is your take on it? Do you also think that we are all suffering this imposter syndrome? Do you agree with that, or do you think that the cure to this imposter syndrome can be actually developing this growth mindset that you mentioned in your presentation?
The cure definitely can be, honestly, just building up your believability. So this happened to me once early in my career. So a lot of my clients were coming to me, and I was only 23 years old at the time. And they kept actually saying to me, "Oh, Jessica, thank you so much. We couldn't have done this without you." And I actually went like this, was like, who else are they speaking to? Because that could not have been me. And it happens, right? Because often we just don't believe that it's us doing it. And all it takes is just repetitive effort until we actually create our identity around that. So it took me a little bit of time to actually go, well, hold on, that is me. I did do this. So therefore, that is my identity.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Victor here is asking, what were your last mini wins? Your actually last mini wins.
Okay. This is a really good one to share. So at the end of the day, we're all human. And I love just sharing stories like this because it makes me so much more, I don't know, so much more alive to show you that I actually practice what I preach. I had a small issue when it actually comes to my eating about 8 months ago. And I had this thing where I actually couldn't go to bed hungry. And I would say to my boyfriend, like it might be 11 o'clock at night, and I will just eat. He's like, what are you doing? I said, oh, I can't go to bed hungry. And I started to create my identity around that. So I said, I'm Jessica, and I'm a girl who can't go to sleep hungry. And so what happened was I had to build up the belief that I actually could go to bed hungry. So what I decided to do was I actually embarked on a fasting journey, intermittent fasting, where what I would do is I would fast for 16 hours a day and eat for 8 hours a day. And what that meant was I often had to miss dinner time. And I was so committed to sticking to my intermittent fasting because I said that I was going to do it. And I knew that I want to actually bust this belief that I have. So I have a belief that I can't go to bed hungry and I want to bust it. I want to completely get rid of it. So I actually stuck to my intermittent fasting for 8 days straight, where I would stop eating at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes even earlier, and not eat until 10 a.m. the next day. So making it like a 16-hour fast. And what that did was, because I did that for 8 days straight, that built up the believability within myself that I could actually go to bed hungry. And this is just another example of mini wins. We can only believe we can reach the greater goal by proving to ourselves in small incremental steps that we can. Because by proving it with my actions, my brain actually identified that that's who I am now.
Great answer. Thank you for that. I know myself, I have tried intermediate fasting, and when the dinner time comes, it's always very difficult. But I think it's basically like a muscle, like any other muscle. Your mind is a muscle, so you just need to train it step by step to basically make it to what you want. Another question here we have from Captain Sharko. Okay, we all experience setbacks from time to time. How do you get back on track?
How do you get back on track from limited setbacks? That's the question?
That's the question, exactly.
Okay. So this is a question I love answering. So for me, I've actually experienced a lot of setbacks. And a lot of people have actually said, how can you recover from them? So one setback I had was I actually failed once on live TV. So I actually love sharing this story because the cameras were rolling. It was national TV across all of Australia. What do we have? Like 7 million people in this country. And they said, Jessica, thank you so much for being on the program. Could you please tell me, what do you do? And for some reason, I completely froze. And my answer was, I don't know. So then what would you say, the producer or the host was trying again, like, okay, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I'm like, I still don't know. Like, that was my actual answer. So to a lot of people on the outside, they were like, that's such a major setback for your career, because it actually happened at a really integral point in my life where I needed this media exposure to help with something that I was launching. And what was really great for me to understand how to deal with that is to actually tap into the higher vision that I have for myself. So I actually kind of create a vision of what I'm aiming for every single day, because I understand at the end of the day, I'm human and I might not do everything perfectly. I might experience setbacks, but what is the highest vision of myself? What am I aiming to be? So I'm aiming to be someone who's very kind, very loving, very loyal, and very patient. Now, if that's part of my highest vision, and if I make a mistake down here, that's okay. Because when I look at the highest vision, the perspective I have on my life helps me to understand that this little setback at the end of the day is actually nothing in comparison to where I'm going.
Wonderful answer. I think we all should have this big vision always ahead of us to remind us, or that these little failures or fuck ups, they don't really matter in the big picture. So absolutely. Thank you so much for answering this one. We have one last question here, and this is very exciting because the question is actually, or there are more questions coming, but the question now is this also something we will do with you in the peer mentorship? So I'm really excited. If you all here don't know, we have just launched this global peer mentorship program designed for 15 to 19-year-olds to help them set their goals big, to get out of their comfort zone, to help them deal with any obstacles that might come to their lives. And Jessica here agreed to be one of the mentors leading the pirates throughout their journey. So thank you for agreeing on jumping with us on this journey. And could you please answer this question? Is this actually something that you will be doing with the pirate and peer mentorship? Thank you.
Definitely. So I was actually working with Moonshot Pirates team this week and reviewing the syllabus. Step one of the syllabus is actually to create a vision board. So what is it that you're striving for? What are your goals? And the first thing I said is that we can do that as step one, but what is their believability that they will actually be able to achieve that? And that's one of the things I'm most excited to work with my students on as part of my group, as part of my mentoring group, is to help them build up their believability. So in fact, they can actually achieve any goal that they have.
Perfect, thank you. If you are all interested to learning more about this program, just head to our website, www.moonshotpirates.com, and check out the Global Peer Mentorship Program, and either share with the people you know or apply yourself. It would be absolutely wonderful to have you there and perhaps working here with Jessica. We have a couple of more questions coming in. Here's one question from Martin Wegscheide. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. How do you deal with stress or stressful phases in your life?
So when it comes to stressful phases, I do two things. The first thing is I'll always find a way to feel good now, because if I'm stressed, I'm no good to anyone. I'm no good to the work that I'm doing, and I'm just no good at all. So I'll always try to do something quickly that will help me stop feeling stressed and help me to start feeling good. So it can be a 5-minute meditation if I don't have time. It can be a quick walk in nature, or just reading something or writing. That's the first thing that I do whenever I get stressed, is how can I feel good now? It's not in any way escaping the stressful feeling. I really honor and understand that there's a reason why stress comes into our life. It's more so much about understanding, what is this stress designed to teach me? That's the second thing I understand. I understand that if I'm feeling stressed, what is this stressful feeling coming from? And what is it here to teach me? Is it teaching me that I'm looking at a situation the wrong way? And then if I'm feeling good, which was my first step, I will then take action because I'm feeling good, not because I'm still stressed. Because the last thing that we want to do when we are feeling stressed is to allow it to continue to grow. Because when it grows, it's only going to snowball and get bigger and bigger. So I always nip it in the bud by feeling good now. So taking a 5-minute breather and understand, what is this stressful feeling trying to teach me?
Thank you so much for answering. I hope this answers your question, Martin. Next question is from Dorothea Boma. She was one of our participants actually in the bootcamp last month, so thank you for joining us. Dorothea's question to you, Jessica, is, what drives you personally? What keeps you motivated? And what do you do on your bad days?
So, okay, the first part of that, what keeps me motivated, is being connected to people like you. People that are eager to learn and want help in reaching their goals. They are the people that drive me, because I'm creating all of these resources for you guys. I absolutely love it because, like I was saying in my introduction, I know what it feels like to have no hope. I know what it feels like to have no one believe in you. And if I can be that person to help someone else, that's what my resources are designed to do. Because I actually believe in you. I believe in every single person out there. And that's part of my why. That's part of my vision, is to create these resources for every single person, regardless of your race, your gender, your ethnicity, your economic background. You can do it. And here are the tools. Here's the know-how. That's what keeps me going. And the second part of that, what do I do on my bad days? It literally comes down to either resting, because that's what's going to make me feel good now. Because every one of us can get tired. We can not feel like working, for example, but we need to always try to find a way to feel good now. Because as soon as we start to feel good, it will just continue to grow and get bigger. So if I'm having a down day, I might honestly just watch a 10-minute clip on YouTube of funny cat videos, because they are hilarious. And when you laugh and when you start to feel good, it will honestly start to boost your immune system, your energy, your happiness within you, that you're then ready to do something else. You're not stuck in that feeling of, I feel crap, I feel dodgy. So that's what I do.
Thank you so much. I can completely relate to both the motivation and this what do we do on the bad days. I have to send you a couple of babies videos too. They're also very. Maybe we have time for the last question. It's a bit broad, but you as a young entrepreneur as well, perhaps you can give a few tips to that as well. And the question is coming from Jonas Bayer, and he's asking, how can I build my own company successfully? So what would be basically your tips? Where would you start at to build it in a successful way?
Definitely. So what you want to try to do is to make sure you have a product that people actually want. So I would begin by testing out the product just with people that you know and getting feedback from them. So if it's a product or a service, I would be sitting with people and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to create. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? And actually test it on them. So build it. Build it in the smallest, cheapest, and easiest way possible to test what the feedback is and to see if people actually like it. Because if they do like it, that's an indication that you're onto a winner.
Perfect. Thank you, Jessica, so much for this wonderful session and for answering all those questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us here today. Have a lovely day and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.